Okay. This afternoon I have a model year 2004 Range Rover with a 4.4 liter engine. I think it's a V8. I haven't taken the plastic cover off the engine yet because I don't really need to at the moment. But I think 4.4 would be a V8. It has the main complaint that it's got. It's running fine. The main complaint the customer has got with it is the transmission, especially when the engine has been running for a while and it gets warm, the transmission will refuse to engage reverse. All the front gears work fine, it will shift fine, but when it warms up, intermittently, it refuses to engage reverse gear. It does engage reverse gear when it's cold. That's what I've been told. I haven't driven the vehicle myself to validate the customer complaint because I have a vehicle behind me that's blocking this Range Rover from leaving the garage at the moment. They are still working on it. I hope you can see in the rear view mirror there is a Mercedes. Sorry, I got interrupted by a phone call once again, but I don't know where I was at. I was trying to explain, that we have a vehicle that's blocking this car from leaving at the moment until the vehicle in the back is repaired and it can move. We are packed up at the moment. The garage is full of repair jobs. See all that? Those are all jobs waiting to be done. We have a Mitsubishi. We have a 2011 BMW. After it, we have a the 2011 BMW is a 520D, I think, with a 2-liter common rail diesel engine. And then beyond that is a Mercedes, another BMW 2008, actually convertible. It's got collision repairs waiting. Opposite it is a BMW 2005 BMW 116 1 Series. Ivan just completed the timing job on that. It's due to leave. Beyond it, beyond those, I think a 1998 Mercedes, and then there's a 1995 or 96 VW Golf, and then at the end, toward the wall with the hood up, is a 2004 Mercedes E240. I actually worked on that vehicle yesterday. It has a fan problem. You see the video of that shortly, and many other vehicles. So we are kind of packed up. Anyway, back to this vehicle. I've managed to get into the complaint on this. The customer asked us to look at only the transmission. It's the only one he has issues with, nothing else. So I come straight to the transmission control module. I'm already connected up, and when I try to read the fault memory, I find there is no code at all. I like this vehicle because it communicates very fast with the diagnostic equipment, and the next thing I go to is try to look at the diagnostic real-time data from the computer, from the transmission control module, and I want to look at everything for now because I don't have a particular plan right now. because I already have a feeling. I'm already biased. I'm sorry. In this case, I'm already biased. I think this is a mechanical issue, but I'm just ruling out any electrical issues on this vehicle. So I'm just going through. I don't want to call them motion. Sorry about that. I was speaking to a colleague outside the vehicle. So what I have here is selector lever terminal status. The selector lever, gear selector lever is that. I want to see, I think it has 4 positions, 4 main positions, and 2 minor ones in the D position for plus and minus. It's got a Tiptronic gearbox. So right now I'm in P, as you can see from the light. When I come back down to the engine control module, when I move the lever, I want to see the change, and I've seen a change. So that means it recognizes reverse gear because I'm in reverse gear now. I've moved to N, and I've seen a change in terminal status, so that means it can recognize neutral. And finally, that's D. Also, obviously, being seen by the transmission control module. And there's something I'm noticing. I see this S gear program. I don't know what that is. I mean, I think it means summer or winter. There should be a button for that. I think it's in the summer or winter programming. I can't find it. It should normally be here. I don't think it is that, and I don't think it is that. It's where that I see this. That looks like it's for air conditioning. Oh, I just turned the AC on. I need to take it off. Just going crazy now. Okay, it's now all off. Now I can't find the winter or summer program button, but I can see it is in the summer gear program, which is okay. And selector lever setting, there is a question mark there. Do you see that here? I change that. Okay. Neutral. That's in neutral. That's reverse. That's parking. Now I see the change in status of these terminals. I think you can see them too. The only problem I have now, I thought it was all fine, but I think the only one it's recognizing now is for D. You see, when I move the selector down, because I'm in D, but I push it to the Tiptronic end, so I can use the plus and minus. See that it can change when I do that. Up, it recognizes upshifts, recognizes downshift. So in D position, that's working fine. And you see now it's giving me a value of 4 for the selector lever setting. When I'm in N, when I move the terminal to N, the light shows me it recognizes that. But here I have a question mark. So I think these terminals, I think one of them is missing a voltage when it should. That's what I'm thinking for now. I'm getting sidetracked a bit now because of this question mark. It's like the computer is not sure which it doesn't recognize this combination of gear lever terminals. So I have to use, if I'm on the correct track with this, I have to use the wiring diagram to work out which terminal should have 12 volts and which one should be open in which lever position. That's where I'm going with this, I think, because in reverse it doesn't seem to recognize, in parking it doesn't seem to recognize that, although here the light is telling me a different story. But again, it could have a different circuitry direct from the lever to control those lamps. But here, with regards to the transmission control module recognizing where this lever is, I think there is a problem. It seems it only recognizes D. The combination for D appears to be correct, having 12 volts on terminals L3 and L4, and having 0 volts or open circuit on L1 and L2. All these other combinations, they are there, but I think they are not correct. This could actually be an input problem for the engine, for the transmission control module, and this could be the fault here. Although I don't want to believe it, because usually these manufacturers, when they make systems, electronic systems like this, they put some kind of fallback safeguard mechanical arrangement, such that at least if you put this in R like it is now, and it still wouldn't recognize it electronically, mechanically the linkage going from the gear lever going down to the transmission should be able to work and at least give you some minimal reversing activity. That's what I've seen before. With this one, maybe I could be it could be my first time seeing this, and seeing it doing it in only in warm conditions, and also it's not giving me any fault codes for that. That's unusual. Even here on the instrument cluster, it's recognizing the correct gear. I'm in P now. I move to R, I move to N, to D. But then again, maybe all this is working right. And in fact, the selector is communicating successfully with the instrument cluster, but not with the transmission control module. Anyway, going ahead, if I look at data further down the list, manual gate, what is that? What is the manual gate? I don't know, but when I'm stepping on the brake pedal now, I take my foot off. You see that change? It does that, and I'll now step on the gas pedal all the way and see if the kick down status also changes, and it has. So that is correct. See my foot on the gas pedal. I don't know if you can see that. Yep, when I do that, see that? It's actuated, the kick down button is activated. Take the foot off. Now it's not. Cornering not identified. Well, the vehicle is not in motion. Page down. ABS data from the ABS. I think is That's fine. I think it's communicating successfully with the ABS module. I see AC DAC button actuated. I think that's this one. I'll bring you back to the screen, and I've just pressed it. Well, I'm pressing it and I don't seem to see any. I don't seem to see any change with that. Is there something wrong with that button? DSC control is stuck in actuated position. That seems to be an issue worth investigating, I think. But that wouldn't be the cause of the failure to reverse. It just means that is dynamic stability control, basically traction control. You can turn it off and on when you wish. Most times, normally it should be on. What else? Power supply there, although the battery is a bit low. ATF temperature. This vehicle has been sitting for 2 days. You can see it's really cold. Although I see a discrepancy between the engine temperature and the ATF temperature. One of those sensors is not very good, I think, especially the ATF one. Oh, that's of interest now, especially because I mentioned this may end up being a mechanical issue. I'm very interested in that. I want to run the engine and see if those sensors, they are reading changes for the better. The solenoid valves, the combination is such that it's off now. The solenoid valve 1 is off. I think it's got like 3 of those. Solenoid valve 2, 3. When it's in P, 2 is on, 1 and 3 are off. When it's in neutral, same thing happens. Oh wait, yeah, when it's in reverse, I don't see any change in status. So these solenoid valves, that's telling me something, that this thing is not being recognized. This position is not being recognized until it's in D. See, when it's in D, the solenoid valves have changed status. This one was off, it went on, it has just gone back off. See that? Temporarily, then it goes off. It's just gone off. If I move back to neutral, this one, look at that one, goes off. When I move to D, it first moves to on. See that? If I don't do anything, after a few seconds, it goes to off. This is interesting now. The pressure actuators, the current going through them is similar. I think all those solenoids are good in there. It has 5 of those for changing different pressures in the system. And wow, you can see 4 of them reading the same current. So I think the resistance in them is the same. If it wasn't, it would be they would be reading different currents. So I think that tells me those pressure actuator solenoids are good. See, even the last one is reading the same current as the others. And I've run out of the data list for that. I think I have 2 things to investigate here: the selector lever and the temperature. Because I'm sitting in here and it's sweltering, I'm sure the temperatures are approaching or just above 30 degrees centigrade. And there's no way I can see this engine ATF temperature reading 14 degrees. Either there is a problem with those sensors they are kind of working. I want to run the vehicle and see if the temperatures change, but I think they are not that accurate. Maybe in the lower range they are not that accurate. It may not be a problem as such. Maybe they have a little bit of corrosion in their terminals or something. I don't want to read so much into that, but that is certainly taking a bit of my attention right now. And the other one is, I'm not going to go after that DSC button. It's not I don't think it's concerned with our issue. But the one I'm most interested in, the data I'm most interested in, is about this question mark. It puts a question mark there. I mean, it's trying to say, hey, I don't understand what I'm seeing at the terminals on the gear selector lever. So my next step is, the battery is a bit low and we don't happen to have the battery charger at the moment. If this vehicle can crank, I'll run the engine for several minutes. If it can crank and run, I'll run the engine for several minutes and see if there is any change in temperature, in the temperature, what the temperature sensors are reading. And then after that, I'm going to look at the wiring diagram for the shift gear selector shift. And also, I've just noticed something. You see this number here, outside temperature 30.5 degrees centigrade. And what am I reading at the inside the gearbox? Yeah, 14 and 19. Discrepancy of about 15 degrees for the ATF and about 11 degrees for the engine temperature. I want to go to the engine control module now and try to read the engine coolant temperature data and see what's up with that. Maybe the engine control module is the one sending bad data to, but at least the ATF temperature sensor is even this the engine control module doesn't have any fault codes, but at least the ATF temperature sensor is controlled directly by the transmission control module, so that shouldn't, I can't blame that on data transmission between modules. Temperature, engine, okay, the temperatures are there. Fortunately, it also gives me the actual voltages it's seeing at the wiring. Hello, with the data. This the engine control module doesn't seem to to give me the data. It's left blanks for me. Is there something wrong with the communication? Okay, I'll just try to read all the data. It will be giving me the data slower, but I expect to read something. Now I'm having issues with that. Air mass, I don't believe that data. Air mass already reading that high. There's something wrong with the ECM data. What I'm going to do is go into the ECM again via OBD2. Well, I tried to get into the engine control module using OBD2, and frankly I was surprised that on a 2004 vehicle, European make, it's not compliant to at least EOBD. I understand the vehicle was imported from Japan, but most vehicles, European manufacturer vehicles imported from Japan usually are compliant with EOBD. Well, this one isn't, so that's an entry route blocked. So I can't validate what I was seeing earlier in the manufacturer specific software. Anyway, I'm going to try to look at the wiring diagram next to see what's up with the gear selector terminal data on this vehicle. Okay, so I've just looked at the wiring diagram for this vehicle, for the 2004 Range Rover. I'm a bit disappointed with it because all it did, I used the phone to log into the website where I get the wiring diagrams from, but all that I could see was just something like that, and it showed me that the selector, and then it showed me the transmission control module, and it showed me the 5 wires running from the TCM to the selector, gear selector. Now, all it did confirm to me was it has 5 wires, which I expected, because there should be 1 wire bringing in battery voltage from the transmission control module to the selector, and then there should be 4 wires. Remember, we saw when we were looking at the data, it was saying terminal 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those would be those different wires. So for example, if it is in P, there is a combination in which these switches would be closed and open, and the computer would be able to recognize, depending on the voltages coming back on these wires coming back to the TCM. The TCM would be able to recognize which gear the driver has selected at the selector. So that is good information. I could see the voltages changing when I was in the vehicle. I could see the voltages changing on almost all the wires. The problem is it appears that the TCM is only happy or able to recognize the gear selection here when it looks at the combination of voltages on the wires when it is in D position. Now, when it is in other positions, it was giving us a question mark, as in it was asking itself, what is that combination? You could see voltages, it sees the voltages on those wires, but it doesn't recognize the combination of battery voltage on those wires. It does, however, recognize the one on D, but for P, N, and reverse, it doesn't. And the reason why I wanted to look at the wiring diagram, I hope the wiring diagram would show me that, so I would know that if I'm in P, I expect battery voltage on this wire, maybe no voltage on that, battery voltage on this, that kind of thing. But I don't seem to be able to get that information, because I've drawn this because this is what I expected. I wanted to explain that to you, but this is actually missing. All it is showing me is this box and saying selector, and then the 5 wires going to the TCM. That kind of is disappointing. So that means I have to use other channels. I have to go into maybe fora, online fora, to try to dig this information out. But I think this here is the problem of why the vehicle is is not able to engage reverse gear. Although I need to interview the customer again, because he seems to say it only happens when the transmission is warm, and that's why I was going in the direction of mechanical issues in the valve body on the transmission. But now looking at this, I'm thinking maybe it may still be true it happens when it's warm, but this kind of information, the voltages on these wires, maybe this thing is damaged inside there. Maybe it is misaligned. That's the direction I'm going on this. I may or may not make another video on this. I'm not so sure if I'll make another clip on this. I may end this video on this note. At least I've seen this is a problem. The transmission control mod is not happy with it. In terms of diagnostic investigation, I think this is very important. Of course, we shall investigate this to the end and correct it if it is, indeed is a problem. But I'm not yet so sure if it's conclusive enough. If it isn't, maybe I'll make another video that explains if we correct this and we still have the no reverse gear problem and we investigate it further. Maybe I will make another video for that. But for now, this is I think an important finding. Although I've been disappointed with the wiring diagram that I have, I'll investigate it further. But I think this is I still think it is a big finding. Although it's nothing like what I expected. I didn't even want to get entangled in this. I thought it was a mechanical issue. Well, so much for thinking thinking there's no electrical issue. Okay, just before I leave the garage, I just wanted to verify the customer complaint, and I have. The engine is now running. You can see the RPM. I can actually rev it a bit for you so you feel it, and that's a bit surprising. The vehicle is in P, but when you go on the accelerator, it actually wants to move off, and it's in P according to this. When I go on the accelerator, it felt like it wanted to move forward. Now back to this data. Look at the temperature. The engine has been running for about 5 minutes. The engine temperature is creeping up, and so is the ATF temperature. So the sensors are working-ish, but not very, very well. And the other thing I wanted to show you, I don't think I can show it to you, but when I run the engine and I put the selector, the gear selector in, of course in P and N, the vehicle won't move. In R, it won't reverse, it won't engage reverse, even when it was cold, because apparently the customer complaint was the problem happens when the engine is warm. That's not the case. It seems to be doing it all the time. When I put it in D, it moves forward. So then my next step now is to work out the correct sequence of the voltages that should be on the 4 terminals of the gear selector module. I think that should be the fix on this. Everything else seems to be working fine. Engine is running fine. Just look for the correct sequence from the repair manuals, and then make sure that is what we are reading on the diagnostic machine, and I'm sure by that point we shall be able to get our reverse gear. I think the selector circuitry failed, but he's just fortunate that it failed in such a way that when it is in D, it is still giving him, or the wires, it is still giving, the wires from the selector module are still giving the transmission control module the correct sequence of voltages, and therefore allowing the vehicle to go into drive forward. But for reverse, there appears to be a problem. Thank you for watching.